Malls are some of the most densely populated places in our country, especially during the Christmas season. The West Edmonton Mall is a place designed to attract crowds throughout the year, and nearly 400,000 come through its doors every week. Part of the draw is the endless variety. There aren't many places where you can go skating and swimming under the same roof, or where you can travel from China to Bourbon Street in just a few steps. But at the end of the day, it's still about the shopping, and there are hundreds of stores to choose from. Malls have been called the temple of our times, and there's no bigger temple than the West Edmonton Mall. But tucked away amongst all the shops is the Marketplace Chapel, and it's been serving shoppers here since the mall opened over 20 years ago.
If Jesus was in Edmonton, he'd be hanging out at the mall. Another really cool spot is have you seen the indoor rink? It's where the Oilers...
And that's where Bob Gale spends the lion's share of his time. Though he may not look like a typical mall rat, he's well acquainted with every square foot of the building. But as director of the Marketplace Chapel, his job is to tend the flock that come here. A mixed group of shoppers, thrill seekers, and some just seeking shelter.
Many people, Denise, are like they're no longer connected to the church. And a chapel really reaches out to give pastoral care to those who are no longer part of their parish or their congregation, whether it be the army, the hospitals, the prisons. Well, society itself needs a chapel, a place to go when you need spiritual help.
But many people who come to malls aren't looking for spiritual help, or at least not expecting to find it among shops and restaurants. And that's the novelty of the Marketplace Chapel. It's also the challenge, according to Pastor John Hayford, who worked here in its early days.
It's not a place that you just present something spiritual to people, because the purpose for coming to the mall is to shop and to have fun. And so to do something spiritual, it requires that you be led of the Lord.
And it was that leading that sparked the vision for the chapel. Founder Nelson Wolfe, a young missionary, saw the potential when the West Edmonton Mall was going up.
He used to ride his bicycle around, and when he saw this gigantic building coming up, he was wondering whether there would be any place given to God. He felt the Lord impress on his heart to contact the Gamasians, the owners of this mall, that if they would give a place to God in this mall, God will honor them and bless them. And he said they looked at each other, the brothers looked at each other and said, well, let's do it.
But it took many volunteers and churches to build it and keep it afloat.
Good afternoon.
Pastor Hayford was the youth chaplain, and there were plenty of young people coming in those days.
And there were some times while we were praying, the youth that had gone to the movies would be hearing us singing or praying, and they would be knocking at the door to come in. I remember a number of times some of them came in to give their lives to the Lord, and that showed that what we were doing was worthwhile.
Brody Turnbull had no idea there was a chapel in the mall until he stumbled across it one day. For him, it's become a spiritual home.
It's a nice atmosphere, and the pastor's really, really nice. And he invites you in even if you're with tattoos or piercings or anything. It doesn't matter who you are. He doesn't judge you for what you wear or anything.
Many who come here aren't just shoppers, but employees of the mall. Twyla Erickson works in a shop nearby and comes here on her breaks when she can, for a moment of peace and prayer.
This place is much needed, and it's much appreciated by many people I've talked to. And I believe that God has a great future for this chapel, and the people that are involved in it now have been in the past and will be in the future. God's hand is in this place.
Gail says walking with young people like Twyla along their journey is what gives him the greatest joy.
I have to say, I mean, everyone is important, but when you see people that are 14, 15, and 16 and there's no life left in their eyes, and they just look empty, I think seeing them and wanting to reach them, I have to say, Denise, it just comes to the surface right away. God, these young people need an opportunity to know you, to see that life is a lot more than what we're offered here just in the mall.
And the chapel has also become home to a growing prayer movement in the city. The House of Prayer Edmonton meets here each week. Jim Hall says it's the perfect place for them to be.
Well, we used to do it at another location, and then when this location opened up, the opportunity presented itself. We loved it because it's here in the mall, and the mall is open 24 hours a day, and once a month we do 24 hours of worship and prayer. And it's open, it's much more, it's in the marketplace, and so you're connecting with people. We have people that drop in, they'll just be walking through the mall, and all of a sudden they'll come in and they'll sit down for, some people stay for 5 minutes, some people stay for an hour. It really depends on who they are and whether they connect with what's happening. So it's very much in the open.
And though they may just be a handful, they are already seeing answers to prayer for their city.
There's a real sense that God is on the move and that things are beginning to happen. There's a number of groups that have come in and done prayer initiatives here in the city, just even in the last year or two. And they've come specifically to Edmonton because they've had a sense from the Lord that God's moving here and He's doing something powerful.
And though it may be tucked away in the corner of the mall, Bob Gill is advertising the Marketplace Chapel wherever he can. And he's looking to franchise it in the future. Though it's run like a business, it still remains a chapel, a refuge in the hustle and bustle of the marketplace.
It's a place not to sell you anything, but we're here to minister to your needs. I just feel that church needs to get back into the marketplace. I think we need to be in the malls all across Canada. I would love to see a franchise of Marketplace Chapel in every major city across this nation, letting churches of that city cooperate together to have a meaningful expression to the people in one of the venues where people still congregate, and that's malls.
In Edmonton, Denise Lodde, 100 Huntley Street.